Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Recovery Live. I am Alicia. I'm in California, and I am with Tom, who is in New Jersey. We have a holiday season program for you today. We're going to talk about all holiday things of when we were in our addiction and now how we have boundaries and what happens now and how to stay fit and spiritual fitness, keep that up to par. We're going to bring on someone else with us. But first, we want to discuss quickly. We just got back from Malibu, our first retreat there that was absolutely amazing. And we had about 44 people. And it was just beautiful. The ocean was right there. It was up on a mountain. And it was just amazing. And what do you want to say? What stood out to you, Tom? I mean, they're always just spectacular.
Right. I mean, it was, by the end of it, everybody was thinking, is this the best first retreat we've had in the U.S.? And Dale Barker was there with me, and we've been to a lot of first ones. So it was hard because there are a lot of good ones, but it was right up there with as good as they have ever been as a first retreat, especially the administrative part. I mean, it was smooth as silk. There was no issues whatsoever.
Good. It's like there was no glitches, no keys lost, or no, it was just smooth. We had meetings in the morning beforehand with the leaders, and everybody was on time, and it just was like no emergency or, no one leaving or sleeping in the room or anything like that. Really.
Right. Nothing at all. Right. But the highlight for me was this retreat, for everybody listening, we've been doing a lot of promotion in California and a lot of outreach and networking. Dale Marsh went down. I've been going down a few times. Daver's been around, and we've been connecting with the recovery community in the Los Angeles, Ocean County area to get them aware of us and what we're doing. And 5 or 6 of these people came. And I'll tell you, my real highlight was Kashif. So we'll talk about that in a second. Kashif was a real highlight. But these 5 or 6 that came from these recovery organizations and big churches in Southern California, I mean, their jaws were hanging. And Alicia, we saw it. They couldn't believe what it was that we were doing and how appropriate and how correct and how, necessary this offering at least should be. They just over and over again. Why? Oh my gosh. This is just fabulous. This has to be everywhere. I mean,
which we knew would happen, but it's amazing that they were willing to come and experience the whole retreat. And now, which we knew would happen, they would love it. And then they're going to tell people and then bring them back, which we already booked another date, right? Tentatively in Malibu.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's tentative. And, some of them, Alicia, were our recovery, not new people. These are people that have been in recovery for a long time and had some knowledge of the 12 steps. And some of them were a little embarrassed that they didn't know.
Roger even had the legacy guide for years using it.
Yeah, right.
But he had never been to a retreat.
Right.
And he was one of the #1 cheerleaders for us now. He's all about it.
Right. He says, you can't get rid of me.
Which is great. He can help us. He can bring people in. And that was really good. He was our keynote speaker, actually. He was amazing.
Right. So one of the amazing things was we also had one of the professionals that's helping us from the back end with our networking, with some fundraising and stuff, Ryan S., who came with me from New York to see it, who is not a person affected by substance abuse. See, Cass, twice. I didn't use the N word. Yeah. And she would have been proud of me because I didn't do it at retreat either. Remember, Alicia?
Yeah, Cass, you didn't say it once.
Yeah, I didn't say it once. The N word. Anyway, and that's the NOR word. Good, she says. But he really has no concept of recovery. Had never been to an AA meeting in his life. So he sat through this AA meeting that Sarah Center has, and then he came to retreat. And this whole weekend, he just kept pulling me aside. Oh my gosh. I mean, is this what you guys are doing? oh my gosh, I've got to help you. We've got to get this thing everywhere. I had no idea. Da, 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 da. And this is what happens when people come and experience.
Yeah.
As
And
opposed
tell him about Kashish,
Oh
who
yeah,
I didn't
Kashmir.
know about until he came.
So on Wednesday afternoon, last Wednesday, I had an appointment with an organization called Exponents down in the Battery Park in Manhattan, which is way at the southern tip of Manhattan. You look out over the Statue of Liberty. And we met with this gentleman who runs an outpatient treatment facility that's funded by New York City. And we had met him at the mocktail hour. He came. So this is how all this stuff is working together. He came to mocktail hour. We made an appointment, and Ryan and I both went and met him. And we're sitting there talking to him and his boss at 4:00 in the afternoon. And they're like, wow, how can we experience this? And I said, well, I mean, we are going to Malibu tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. And they put him on a plane that night and sent him with us.
Yeah.
Amazing. They put him on a plane and sent him with us. And he just lost. He's been texting me. He's got 3 organizations in New York City he's trying to get on board. His boss and I are going to meet. All of us are going to meet again. We're already doing a master class with this organization. I mean, it is just going to suck us into the city of New York on the city side, the city shelter side, the government public side, which is just in such need of help that it's so exciting. And then, Alicia, what we didn't know was he wasn't on the plane in the morning. So Ryan and I were sitting on the plane and we're like, where's Kashif? And we're like texting him, dude, are you coming? And we're sitting there and it was like 5 minutes before they're going to close the door. And he was just through security. Wow. Turns out Kashif has never flown before.
So he didn't know the protocol.
From the South Bronx. I mean, never flown ever anywhere. So it's not like, dude, the security's bad today. He doesn't even know what security means. He didn't know, any of that. So I felt bad because we gave him no coaching at all. He made the flight. He made it. And he said, I was kind of scared at landing. I haven't heard anybody say that. It was nothing landing in LA. And we're like, why? And he's like, well, that's the first time I've ever landed in a plane. I'm like, huh? So we apologized and said, we have much more advice for you on the way back. I'll help you. So him and I,
because at dinner he was saying he was going through security and his belt was off and he was running to try to get to the plane. And
I told him, don't. I texted him, don't stop at the bathroom.
Just go.
Jump, get on. There's bathrooms on the plane. I mean, he made it. We told the gate agents who were on the plane. We said he's coming. He's coming down don't shut the door. And it was before the flight. They kept it open. It was good. United was good, like they generally are. Yeah. But that was such a highlight because another one who we could tell them all we wanted about it, Alicia. And I know Dee has had this experience too when we bring her on. You can tell people all about it and they get it and they're okay with it. But it's a whole different story when they come and they sit through it and they feel it. And we had all these people. I mean, they want us to have registration for the June one up as soon as we can. Roger saying, I'll start signing people up. So we're going to work behind the scenes. Cass will work behind the scenes over, in our timely manner amongst all the other stuff he has to do.
In June, we're going to have another Malibu retreat.
Yep. In June, we're already set in June. And then we're going to be in a few shelters in the City Team World in February and in March. In April, we're going to be in Kips Bay. We're going to actually run a retreat in New York City with all these events we're running. They've told us in New York, they really would love to have a retreat that they could announce when we do these things.
A commuter or
commuter. Okay. We're going to do another mocktail hour on the 17th of June. We're going to do a master class with Exponents in January. So lots of stuff, guys, going on, especially in the New York and California area. Really big. Tomorrow, I fly down to Orlando. One of the foundations that's helping us is highlighting our organization as, one who's doing great work in this area. So I'm going down to speak at this Christmas gala in Orlando tomorrow. And I hope to garner even some more support from
Is Dale going with you?
He's not. I actually had no tickets for anybody but me. So I'll go. I'll see Sue. Sue Foreman's on here. I'll see Sue and Steve. And I saw enough of Dale this weekend. It can only take so much of a Red Sox fan. Before you have to.
He's not on right now, so you can talk.
Yeah. I'm
He
surprised
said,
he's not.
yeah, he had
They're
an appointment.
no, they're changing his roof at his house today. So I said it's really noisy. At least that's one thing that's
Oh,
going.
I thought they had a financial advisor appointment or something.
Could be. And we have virtual retreat, of which Dee will be involved with too. We should talk about that. Why don't we bring Dee on and let's talk a minute about the virtual retreat and all the kind of
Yeah.
the uniqueness of what the virtual retreat brings to Came to Believe in Recovery. Hi, Dee, and everybody. Dee is coming to us from Manchester, England.
Mm.
It's a cool place, Manchester, England.
It is a cool place. I was there.
Yeah, it's got.
I liked Manchester.
It used to be called Madchester because it was, and that was a music movement, Madchester movement. It was in the 90s, so it's well known for music.
I did like when Dee lived in Bromley because I liked Bromley and Croydon. I would visit her over there. I did like that. I have to admit, but Manchester is good. So we're going to have this virtual retreat, and just so you guys know, the virtual retreat is January. Look what's going on in the UK. So guys, it's not just in the US. Between the US and the UK, I think in this spring we're going to do 8 or 10 retreats. I think something like that. 6 between January, February. We've got 3, 4, and they got 2, 6 retreats in a few months. It's really great. And we're going to do this virtual retreat coming up. The Alicia, you had it wrong. 5th through 7th. Cass is right, 5th through 7th. So, I mean, Dee and I have this history back with the virtual retreat because when the pandemic started, and everything shut down, as you guys remember. We didn't know what to do. I mean, I remember an absolute call with Dee, and we said, "What should we do? What?" And we decided, let's try this virtual thing because everybody been just getting started with Zoom. I mean, nobody even hardly knew what it was. And we saw it had break rooms and it had some things and nobody knew how to use it. We didn't know how to use it. We didn't know it was going to work. I mean, half of our trouble was getting people to be able to even sign on, at that first retreat. And, 15 virtual retreats later, the success is undeniable. And what did you find, Dee, is like one of the most beneficial aspects of virtual that you don't get in an on-ground retreat?
Okay, right. So I think because there are people who, even with the best will in the world, may have health issues, family, even outside the pandemic, will have children, and they might be able to, go to a meeting, get somebody to cover for them, but for a whole weekend to look after children or animals. Sometimes some people are very connected with their dogs and cats and, particularly dogs. And, I mean, they would be going, I just can't do it. And it's a big thing and can cost a lot of money to get sitters for people and animals, So there is that. The other thing is that I think one of these major benefits is if you do come to the virtual retreat, you'll see some people on there who will be like leading like the break rooms, maybe sharing on their experience and maybe taking people through the steps, who have only ever been to a virtual retreat. And and I had to forget. I'd forgotten because one of our team, Marlene, had never been to an on-ground retreat until last month, and she's been with us years, helping and dedicated to the to the meeting, because we've got a meeting once a week, which is all Came to Believe people, supports people who've been to a retreat, helps people to learn more about the legacy guide, etc. And I could forget. I forgot. And then she'd come along and she said, "Oh, I'm a bit nervous. It's like, my first face-to-face retreat." So I think it brings along people, both people who couldn't get there anyway and team, and bring team together on Zoom that would not so you get a virtual retreat all over the world. You've got we've got Clodagh who lives in Berlin. She joined us in Berlin. So Marlene is in Ireland. I'm in Manchester. Somebody else is in the south of England. There's always, and then on that meeting, so not on the virtual retreat, and then on the meeting afterwards, we've got people from California, New York, we've got people, New Jersey, so America. So, and then we continue to have community, which we would not be able to have if we only had on ground. And on ground is wonderful. It's so amazing. It's wonderful to hear about your last retreat. How wonderful. But the whole Zoom thing has opened a new world up.
And it's Marlene's not the only one. Dara, who was our host here in California, her first retreat with us was a virtual retreat.
Yeah.
So, we have more than one. We have a number of people that have moved into leadership with us that started as virtual. So it's worth noting. And the international element of it is something you don't get in person. You just don't get it. You'll have people from all over, and it's fun. And you'll have different culture, different influence, different accents. We get to teach them all how to say coffee. They can.
I can't say it.
We can't say it. She's been trying for like 3 years. It's just, and
So
she can't do it. Yeah.
And you can't say North Pennines.
I can't say North Pennines, although I just did, because right after you, I can.
No, there was a little edge at the end that was incorrect.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not even going to try.
Well, she's a Yankees fan, guys, so we're all good. Dee.
Yeah, I am.
She didn't do anything wrong. She's got her shirt.
She's in the UK. She's a Yankees fan.
She sure is.
Wow.
Well, I went to the Yankees Stadium, and I've got a Yankees jersey, and I've got a bandana, and I did have a glove, but I don't know where that went. I think that got lost along the way.
The finger. You had the finger.
The finger thing. So yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, I'm a big cricket fan in the UK, so it's a very similar sort of vibe, and so I really enjoyed it. I mean, if I was talking with Dale, and he'd take me to Red Sox first, I don't know what I would have done, but now.
Right.
The stadium sucks. It's like bench seating. You wouldn't have liked it. It's called Boston. It's nothing. And it was a walk-off, which Dee didn't have any idea what was, but the game was very exciting. A walk-off victory by the Yankees is a very exciting game where they walk off at the tie score at the end, and somebody gets a hit and the game ends. It's a very exciting element of baseball. So it was a great game. I remember that day. We had fun. Anyway, virtual retreat.
I had that booklet, and I was filling in all this stuff about all the players. So I got quite involved.
Wow,
anyway,
she was
go on with the
really
virtual thing.
Yeah. So guys, if you're willing, and I think I think Dee makes a great point. There are some people that under any circumstances couldn't come to an in-person retreat for medical, physical, all sorts of reasons why they couldn't come. They could come to this and sit right in their couch or armchair and participate and expect very similar to almost exact results.
Right. Plus, maybe there's someone that really wants to and really needs to, and they're in California, and the next in-person is probably May, so they don't want to wait. So come January, you'll be recovered, and then you can volunteer in May.
So if anyone listens to this and they are still drinking or taking drugs at the moment, and in the mind thinking, I think I like the idea of that, but I just can't do it at the moment, and maybe they're thinking, I can't get through Christmas without alcohol, or my addiction, I need to keep doing that. Sometimes if after Christmas and New Year you think, oh my gosh, I'm beaten, come, you can book on at the last minute. And, keep in touch, keep watching this, and get after Christmas. I know how hard it is, if you're with alcohol or drugs at the moment, and it seems impossible that you could ever not use or drink or whatever. But it is possible, and just keep watching, keep along with us. We're not, trying to, say when your moment is. But if your moment was to come straight after Christmas or after New Year, perfect timing, end of that first week, just get along there. And we have seen amazing experiences. So, please come.
Mm-hmm. That's a great segue, Dee, into what we want to talk about this today is addiction and drinking and the issues around holidays, when we were drinking and when we weren't. And I was in that category that you just talked about, that in December, about this time in December, I was done. I was in the worst state of my life, and I didn't stop because you can't stop on the holidays, right? That was this, how was I going to stop before Christmas? And before, we have no experience with the holidays without the partying. And I literally kept going, and my sobriety date is January 10th. So I got through the new year.
Yeah.
And went another week. And we see a lot of this, people that can't do it before. I wonder if there's anybody listening that has a sobriety date like this week of whatever year.
Well, I wanted to say, because I'm thinking of my dates, with food and alcohol, which is a big thing with holidays and the holidays, and you just binge and starve yourself from New Year's till Easter, and then, screw it. My sobriety date is October 26th for food and alcohol and eating disorders, because I was like, I can't do it. I can't do another holiday. I can't binge on the Halloween candy. I just can't. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I was like, I can't do it. And I did it. God did it. But October 26th is my sobriety date with food and alcohol. Food and exercise and stuff. My alcohol one is in June. So, I wasn't thinking about years then.
So I often think this time of year, sometimes, about once in a while, about if someone gets me talking about it like we are now, what it was like that 18 years ago, this month, before I did, and how different it is today. It was, I just can't even, shudder to think of how I was. And if that's you out there and you're listening to us and you just don't think you can stop, like Dee said, if you have to wait, we're going to be there 5th through the 7th in January. Come to that virtual retreat. Of course, reach out to us or somebody in the recovery community ahead of time if you're ready. Somebody will help you. Reach out. The hand of AA is always there for you.
It's interesting when you talk about, and I was just thinking about, because my sobriety date is the 26th of March, and I'd reached like bottom on a holiday, but it wasn't really called a holiday. It was a holiday because I was working for a company, and they take you on a conference, and you have to sit and listen to, like business stuff, but a lot of it's just like a fun and a lot of drink. Not everyone's alcoholic, but people do drink a lot. And I really became ill there. I was so ill. I had to be flown home from Tenerife back to the UK. And then I suffered all through like October, November, December. And in January, I ended up going January, February into like a treatment center. And I tried to commit suicide. I was a suicide risk. I was in that treatment center, but I came out of there and there was loads of money spent. And I picked up a drink the moment I came out of there. And it was only the 12-step program which moved me forward, not the rehab, not the expensive rehab. And eventually I stopped on the 26th of March. But after I'd relapsed, I kept going right through until then, because once I started again, I couldn't stop again. So, it's not easy. 12 steps work. Yeah, we've got Andrew McIntyre. Oh, hello, Andrew. His sobriety date is December the 13th. He attended the Aylesford Kent retreat on January 2022, 2 years sobriety tomorrow. Andrew.
Wow.
Fantastic. So I know Andrew, and wow, isn't it just so amazing that, that's exactly what we need to hear. So, and if you can't come higher, higher, Andrew. Isn't that wonderful? God, it's just so wonderful. And so if you can't, make, because that's the end of January, the Kent Aylesford retreat, you can either do that. If you want to go face to face, you can do that one. Or on the 7th, 5th to the 7th, you can do a virtual, or do both. Do both.
Do both.
Right.
You know, whatever. So anyway, it's a wonderful thing. Andrew, you need to come again. We need to see you again soon.
Yep. And then today, dealing with the holidays. I mean, it's been so many years now, and the people around me know, and I don't really associate. I don't have drinking friends. You know, I don't have a bunch of people that drink heavy, so I hardly ever get it. Now, here's where we do get it. It's the same thing with food. Even us, as we covered, we can control most of our surroundings until it comes to family. And generally, we got to go be with family during the holidays, or we want to be with our families, right? You know, I don't have to visit my friends in their social hours, but then you get your family together, and everybody's family has, well, I shouldn't say this, but many people's families have somebody that's, you know, feeling no pain.
Right.
And, you know, and it's worthy to note, like Dee noted at the conference, and I've been to these conferences back in the day and years when I was drinking, that people drink a little more at the conferences and all, but many of them, they're not addicts. They're not alcoholics. They just are having fun at that weekend. They drink it a little too much and they get it. And that can happen. And it's the same thing around the holidays with some family. They can drink a little more than they normally do. And so we have to be around them. You know?
Exactly. And so there's family and there are friends. And so I've spent the last 22 years since I last had a drink. A lot of the time is in the recovery community. Okay. But in our big book, at the end of working with others, there's a couple of pages which say you should be able to go anywhere where there's drink. It should not affect you, you know, if you're recovered, you know, if you've got the defense against the first drink. So this weekend I went away with some friends, because moving to Manchester, I've got old friends that I used to knock around with years ago, you know, when I was drinking and drugging, and they would have seen me get worse and worse, and they could stop and I couldn't. Now I've just spent a whole weekend away. There were 5 of us. We went down on the train. We went to a big event, which, as I said before, Tom would hate the music. It's like dance music. And I stayed out till late and danced away and had a great time. And then afterwards they said, oh, you know, how can you dance when you're not drinking or taking drugs? I'm like, I don't need to. I love the music. But then the next day they wanted to continue because we stayed away on the weekend. I went back and, you know, did a few things back at the little house that we'd hired out, and they went out to the pub. And I was like, thank you. I've had a bit of enough of you lot all giggling and laughing and going on. And they knew, and it was all friendly and nice. Then we got back. And my big joke has been with everybody is they were all saying, oh, we feel so ill. We feel so ill. You know, it was all on our WhatsApp group. And I'm like, here's some benefits of not drinking and doing other things. You know, here's the benefit. And then I put a little emoji with a halo over it because, you know, it's a joke. I mean, I'm definitely not a halo like little angel, but it's just was good fun, you know. So that was a holiday. I went away with friends, and some people said, oh, I don't know how you could do that. I'm like, well, I should be able to do that if I've got defense against the first drink of drug. I don't want to do any of that. I wasn't even interested. That's God's power. Anyway, so that's one example. But about family, yeah, that's also an issue. Can be. How do you deal with it? What do you guys do to deal with it?
Yeah, Alicia, you got, you know, not just the drink part of it, but the food part at the holidays, right? When you go to see family, I know I hear you because you rant to me about it.
Yes.
Can you imagine Alicia ranting?
No, never.
She rants to me about it. When she's
my soapbox? I don't have a soapbox.
So what do you do? Because I know that it's an issue for you.
It is. Well, I don't want to say it's an issue, but I just have to be sure, and I need to be in fit spiritual condition, right? I need to be sure that I'm up with step 10 because I'm putting my stuff on other people and I know I'm doing it and I'm judging and I'm looking at what they're eating, and I'm like, you need to be like me, and that's why you're overweight, and you keep saying you're going to start, and then it's like I'm getting all upset and angry while they're just having a good time and eating and drinking. So I have to let them, right? It's their life. They know I'm sober. They know my story with my food and nutrition. If they want help or want direction, they will ask me. And they never have.
I was going to say that. She said,
well, one hints at it, and then she goes right back. And then I think she's embarrassed to keep asking me. But
I wonder with one of those things, Alicia, is I mean, there is the fact that maybe they're not powerless and they're choosing to, indulge for whatever reason. But if they are powerless, sometimes it is somebody else has to carry that message to them, within the family, it's a bit close. Even the big book says, that sometimes it's better for the outside person, the family shouldn't get too involved. They can be involved at the beginning by, you want to help the family, but in some ways, you get told by your family, that you didn't ought to do this or you didn't ought to do that. It's quite challenging. So, all right, look at Andrew saying that he was in Tenerife, and his belly button birthday, second drink for the holiday. Okay, so enjoy your CA meeting, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Cocaine Anonymous, for anyone who doesn't know what a CA meeting is.
Oh, yeah.
So and it's funny, guys, because Alicia did tell me that no one ever asks her for help. And, the discipline, what it is, I've been home on meat and eggs now for the last couple days, and I'm feeling really great. Now, the difference, guys, with me in the holidays when it comes to food is I'm not at risk like Alicia is and some with food addictions when the food goes up. I might gain a pound or two, but I'm not at risk when I just eat the cheesecake and eat everything at the holiday meal. I have to watch just because I want to, and I feel better, but I'm not at risk. I easily come back off of it. But the drinking, and I'm like Dee, I'm not even one bit remotely interested in drinking. I never think about it. I'm not tempted because if we're recovered, we should be able to be around drink and drug if we have good reason. But what sometimes I do find it challenging is when the inevitable change comes at drink number 3 for the people around you, right? When they
really
start
loud and they get stupid.
Loud, right? And then they're emotional or angry or over, and then you're like, all right, here we go. It's time for me to go. And some people have, when I've left things like this early, because that's generally you go early before they start and you leave early. And they'll say, well, is this a problem for you? I said, no, I don't. What's a problem for me are all you dummies who are now solving the world's problems, and you sound like fools. Not always. It's not a rule, but I get over it. I gotta go. I gotta go. And they're like, where are you going? Right, Alicia? And the answer is to bed so I can go to the gym.
Right. Well, you're hungover, feeling full of your cake. I'm going to the gym.
Right. So I have the same thing that I have to deal with. It's judgment. It's superiority. It's thinking we're better. I mean, these are not good things for us to promote in our lives. So sometimes when Alicia and I talk, it's not good because we spool each other up into this little world and then we come back out of it. But
that's a good point too, because that's my step 10 stuff. And that is why they aren't talking to me about it, because they probably feel the stuff that I'm trying not to judge them on. Of course, they're not going to ask me because I have probably a disgusting look on my face.
Well, the step 10 will help with that so that we can feel in peace, that this is all going on and we can be peaceful and discern the difference between judgment and discerning. So you're in that situation and you've done your step 10. So you're not full of resentment or fear, selfishness and dishonesty. And you sat there and it all starts and you discern it's not that good for you. It's not good for me to stay, just not good. And I had that on Saturday after I'd had the night out with my friends and we'd all been very late, etc. And we went in this pub. It was full of life, everything. It was lovely. I'm quite like pub atmospheres. Are quite, fun, and people were nice in there. They weren't drunk, but there was, after just a couple of drinks, I just discerned in me that I didn't need to be there anymore. And I just said, I'm going. And most of them understood, but one or two afterwards, they said they had a conversation about me. Oh, is Dee leaving? Is she all right? And it's like, yeah, my friend who knows said she's fine. She just knows that she'll say, if I'm going to go, I'm going. And that's it. And then I've got no judgment of them at all. I just don't. It's not, but that's only because of what Alicia just said. It's making sure that you've got a clean house before you go. You do your step 10, you share it with somebody else. You ask, you do a step 7 within your step 10 to ask for any defects to be removed, like judgment to be removed. Ask for it to be removed, to be filled with, compassion and, happiness, discernment of what's going on, to be able to leave, but also that you're not judging. And I think that's a spiritual thing. I think that can really happen. The other thing, which I think is funny, and I don't do it as much anymore, but so the very first Christmas that I did when I'd stopped drinking, I remember my son came to visit, and I do a bit of a traditional Christmas. I'm quite into all that sort of stuff. And it was just him. And so I went to the supermarket and I bought bottles of red, bottles of white, a bottle of brandy, some champagne. Now, this is one boy, one person, and I'm not drinking. So I then go back and say, oh, look, I've got you some drink. Well, he doesn't drink very much. He went, what's that all for, Mum? Why have you bought all that? And I'm like, well, just in case you need. I mean, he had a couple of glasses of wine and a brandy, I think, just to keep me happy, and a little bit of the sparkling wine. And then it's like, so I had to go to my neighbour and go, would you like this? Because I don't need it, you know what I mean? So I don't overdo it as much, although I do have a bit of an urge to buy loads in for everyone that's visiting, and they don't want to know.
It's funny. That's what we do. We think, I always tell people, they say, what did you like to drink? And I said, well, whatever came in the biggest bottle or glass, it's what we did. That's funny, Dee, that when you think about getting drink for somebody, you get a lot. Because that's he gets all these bottles.
My
funny.
son was just like,
Mom,
what are you doing? Why? It was just like one of those stories about whatever. But you were asking before, I know that we were discussing it before, about what do we say? How can we communicate where we're at with people without offending? I'm just wondering what sort of you say for the people who don't know, maybe family members who don't quite understand. How do you deal with it?
All my family know. They know not to even offer me the cake. They just walk right by. They know I'm not going to eat it, and they know I'm sober. But yeah. Tom, what about you? Or what about, because you're in a new relationship and that family, right? No.
Well, yeah, that hasn't been an issue at all. That because they're normies. They're non-substance use disorder people.
Yeah, I don't really agree that there are such a thing as normies, but anyway.
Right. So, she caught me. I've had more, not issues, but more needs to comment with work situations lately. Because I go to all these events in New York City and all, and they're drinking events generally. I mean, they're not drinking events. They have alcohol at them. And people will be having a drink. Somebody will pass me a glass of champagne for no thanks. What do you mean? Come on, have a glass, or having a champagne, and they just, no thanks. And so, right, it can be awkward. Why aren't you drinking? And I usually fluff it off with something like, well, I've had enough. I've had my share of drinking one day, and not tonight. Nope. I got a big day tomorrow. Thanks very much. I mean, I'm pretty easy about it. And I definitely do never get bullied into it. But I have to try to make some kind of a remark like that. So I've had to do it more and more lately. What do you do, Dee?
Well, one of the things is that I don't tend to sort of skirt around the fact that that I'm an alcoholic, because I'm not at all ashamed of it. And I do know that some people are in work situations where you don't want to be saying that because there's judgment, and everyone's got to be able to discern what's right or wrong. But overall now, most situations I'm in, I'm really honest about it. I found the most effective one, and especially with waiters. So you get a meal, whether with family, friends or whatever, lots of alcohol going on and food being delivered, and you get the waiter to come, and I say, because I don't put alcohol in my body, I don't know what kicks off the phenomenon of craving, so I don't want it. And so people will, I mean, I'm not going to get into that sort of discussion because I know some people don't quite agree with that, but that's what I do. So I don't put alcohol in my body in any form. And so to those people, and to especially waiters and things, I'll say, there isn't any alcohol in that sauce, is there? And they go, oh, no, I don't think so. So I say, well, it's okay because I've got an allergy. Of course, this is the truth. I've got an allergy to alcohol. Well, they immediately think that my throat's going to swell up, that they might end up having to get an ambulance. So it's just almost 100%. They'll go, oh, I'll just go and check with the chef. And then they'll come back and go, oh, actually, they're just going to make some sauce for you. I'm like, thank you. So that helps. And if there's somebody that I don't want to go into detail because I don't know, I just say, I've just got an allergy to alcohol, I can't drink it. And that's the end of it,
And what did that guy say in California? He said when the allergy, he breaks out in handcuffs. It was funny. Yeah. I had heard that before, but when he said it, it was really funny. He said, mind you, I break out in handcuffs.
Yeah.
It's a real allergy, that. It really is.
That's funny. Right. It's
funny.
We
might not want to say that with people we don't know.
Right. If I do that, boy, the allergy. Well, what happens to you? Well, I break out in handcuffs. Which did not happen to me a couple times, but that was not I never had really run-ins with the law. That wasn't my consequence in general.
Well,
but
not yet. It's one of those yets, isn't it? That if you were to choose not to work the program, then you might end up in breaking out in handcuffs, or it's very likely because it's a progressive illness and it gets worse.
Right.
So if I've not drunk for 22 years, I don't go back to where I was 22 years ago, which is pretty bad. I've already progressed worse. So I don't believe I've got another drink in me. So there's just no way I could risk it. I can't risk it. And do you know, if there's anything that slightly irritates me, and it's wrong. It's like you were saying, Alicia, where you don't want to be doing it. It's when someone goes, oh, you're so strong. And I'm like, I'm not strong at all. I've just done a 12-step program. And then they go into, oh, you're just so wonderful. And they're trying to be nice. They're actually trying to be nice. But I get all irritated inside because I'm like, you don't even understand. I'm not strong. And in fact, it's because I'm not strong that I've been able to stop,
Right.
It's just like, anyway, and it's not, they're trying to be nice. But I can get this little, and I pray, please don't me show it. Like you said, your face, Alicia, your face starts. And it's that they can feel, can feel it, can't you, sometimes from somebody when there's a bit of judgment going on, whatever. So I don't know. And why should they? Why wouldn't they know something? Why wouldn't they say that? It's quite a nice thing to say. So yeah, I admit that, and I'm going to try not to be judgmental of them if they say that to me this Christmas.
Yeah, they say that to me a lot with my willpower around food and sugar and carbs, and I don't eat it. And then depending on who it is, I'll say, it's not really willpower and discipline. It's because I had eating disorders, so it's a little bit deeper than you might expect, and I'm not eating it. There was even a guy. Yeah, there was even a guy at the retreat because I was getting decaf, and he was like, oh, they have juice over here too. And it just kind of came out. I'm like, I don't eat sugar. And he kind of made an excuse for him having it. So that's another thing I have to he thinks I'm judging him. I'm like, no, I don't eat sugar. I don't drink sugar. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want because it's not going to, you're not going to break out in whatever it is that is really bad and awful because of that. Yeah, it is interesting. People do sometimes react as if you're judging them when you say that you don't do something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and that happened too. A certain person at the retreat was eating a lot, and I was there, and of course they had to justify, oh, I only eat like this at retreats or whatever they say. And it's like, why do you even have to say that?
Yeah,
Well,
Whatever.
I like that. That's another good point too that we have to deal with is there are some people that don't understand and then they shun us. We're not the fun people. If we don't drink, then they walk away and then they think, oh, I got to stay away from you and I got to be careful. I'm so sorry. Is this okay? I still get it today.
yeah.
Nearly 20 years sober, that I'll go somewhere and there people will ask, is it okay if I have a drink? Is it okay? And you're
Oh,
like,
I know.
yes, it's fine.
It's fine. And
Right.
that is it all right if I have a drink near you, or if there's
Right,
something else, if there's something illegal going on, but when I was away this weekend, there was a couple of people that ended up turning up later in the house. I'd had a bit of a sleep. I got up and there were some people who'd been invited over, like this sort of thing happens. And so I'm having a chat and it's like, I said, I just don't drink because they're trying to give, do you want a drink? And, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, you don't have to be sorry. I'm completely all right. And then what was really cool was a couple of people said, they said, have you been out with these people? Have you been out with this? Have you actually been out like last night, like where these have been? And I said, yeah. And then somebody said, yeah, and she was dancing and having as much fun as you, yeah. And so it's just awkward. And you can sort of end up feeling like, that you're being separated, that you're just a bit, there's something with you that they've all to be careful with you. And it's quite hard really because you can feel isolated, but then that's about our own reaction. And I think that we got a message up there from Kasara about it. I didn't see what she wrote. So too busy blabbing on.
It was about, really having grace for the people who just don't understand.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. They just, they hear things in the news and addiction and there's a stigma to it and this and that. And they are just trying to be helpful. They think they want to ask and they're just being, courteous, they think. And so we work through it. I've never had an issue with anybody that does that. It used to poke at me when the family did it 10 years sober and we're still a little nervous. And I'm like, really? It's been 10 years.
Yeah,
like,
it's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. At first I didn't know if I should have a drink around my friends in recovery until they told me I didn't need to ask. So maybe that is the answer. That's quite a simple thing to remember to say to them, you just don't need to ask. It's okay. You don't need to ask.
Here's the other thing that I found with other people is some people have experience with people that were trying to get recovered in their life or trying to break it. And it did influence them when there was drink around them.
Yeah.
And it did, in some cases, cause people to start drinking or do things. And so they're a little gun shy about it. They're like, my experience with you type of people is you can't be around alcohol at all. There's some of that. That's the experience they have. And so they're nervous about it with you. And, in my years of sobriety and dating and all, it's been a big thing with some of the women I've dated that have had negative reactions and negative issues with men that have been, in my case, it was women to men because I hate women. And so I had to it took some time for them to realize, you can have a glass of wine. It doesn't do a thing to me.
Yeah,
can have wine? It's a thing. It's a thing. But if we're in fit spiritual condition, we stay in our zone, keep our 10, 11, and 12 in order. We can go anywhere and we can be a great influence on people. And you know what? It's part of our job, I think, or part of one of the benefits is that we educate people a little bit to make them more aware that somebody like us, we don't have the plague. Right.
Well, yeah, I think, and when I was in that moment with these people who come around, they're really nice people who come around and they were all sitting around having a drink. And I came and joined in them for the hour and those questions got asked. But it was really, if I look back, one of the guys that was there that sort of knows me a little bit more said, you're an inspiration to us. And I thought, isn't that nice? Because I have not only this occasion, but I have been in other occasions when they're there and they do whatever they do, and I go home earlier or do whatever I'm going to do. But I think it's sort of like the inspiration bit is that it's not all about drink and drugs. This, being able to enjoy a concert, that you don't have to be drunk throwing lager over everybody, like to go along and enjoy a concert. Well,
if it's the right kind of music, yeah, you would enjoy it.
Yeah, well,
it's the right,
I'm going to send you the music, so then you can listen to it.
You can send it to me.
You know what I find happening? Go ahead. No,
I was going to say that was a good point. I just wanted to piggyback on it. Is that when I was in my addiction, I don't care who was going to be at the party. I just wanted to know what food was going to be there and what alcohol was going to be there, and I didn't care about anything else. Nothing.
What I find today now is, it's like when I was personal training. That as soon as you tell them in a party you're a personal, doctors and people tell me this too, or lawyers.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you say what you do, they want advice. Right away. Personal training, they always ask me. So, and if they were lawyers, I'd say, how much are you going to charge me for 15 minutes of your time for free? But I was kidding around. But I find today very often, especially when they find out that what I do, when I'm in a social situation or somebody comes up and wants advice about a family member or a friend that is in trouble, more often than not, I get those kind of real questions.
Which is good, because then you can tell them
I love that.
The retreats or whatever.
Well, the thing about it is, if just think about our founder of the Came to Believe recovery retreats, which is Clarence Snyder, when you listen to him speak on the last recorded session where he was speaking to people in the early 80s, and he says, about anonymity, because it's in the traditions that, and there's lots of good stuff in the traditions, but there's some things that are misused. So anonymity is meant to be around really famous people on radio, press and film, going around saying that they're in Alcoholics Anonymous, for example, and then relapsing. And then people think Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't work. But it doesn't say the anonymity doesn't mean you have to not tell people that you're in recovery. And he says, if you don't tell people that you are, a recovered alcoholic, how are they going, or whatever it is you recover from, how are they going to know to come to you and ask you for help? How are they going to know unless you say it? And yet you go in meetings and people will be saying, oh, I've just broken my anonymity by telling somebody I was an alcoholic. And it's just like, because they don't understand what the traditions are about.
That's so true. That is such a good point.
Big sigh.
I know. It's
Holidays
so true.
are here.
Anonymity, and it is such right. How is anybody supposed to know? I mean, my anonymity, I know your Dee's and Alicia now with doing this and all the social media and everything we've done. I mean, there is no anonymity, and I'm quick to tell people right away when I do. And now when I go to all these events, I'm going for Came to Believe Recovery. I don't have to say anything. They know what what I'm doing. But the anonymity thing is very much misunderstood within a huge segment of the recovery community, and it's hurt some people. And if it doesn't outright hurt them, it doesn't help them.
Yeah,
to be taught that what it means, and we don't have any right to break anyone else's anonymity.
Absolutely.
But our own, and for right reasons, it's for us to decide. I know I kept it secret at my job before this one at the university for a long time because I really wasn't sure what would come of it if they knew. So it was better not to say anything.
Well, I used to, when I worked within I worked in a very big company, and I was a manager within that company, and I sat in meetings where I heard people laughing and, judging and mocking people who quite clearly had alcohol problems, that were ill, and more or less saying, that they would get rid of them, got to get rid of them sort of thing. And I'd found out what was up with me. So that was wrong, already knew what I was wrong, what was wrong with me. And I chose not to say, because I knew what the conversations in that boardroom were like, and I couldn't trust it. So, I mean, everyone there was told, Dee'd had a breakdown. I'd been away from it. I'd had a mental breakdown, and I was now back at work. But, eventually I left. And then when I left that company, I was very open, started to went for an interview. The very next interview I told the woman that that interviewed me exactly what my history was. And she took me on immediately.
I worked with Lisa for all those years before, because we worked together, as some of you know, at the university. And I used to go away to these retreats, and she would say today, she didn't know where I was going. She thought it was just some self-help or religious thing, church thing. But I didn't ever let on, even to my closest friends there, like her and a couple others. I never let on till towards the end, and they didn't know what I was doing. I'm going to some retreat. Nobody ever.
Yeah, and you can choose. I mean, my workplace environment now, 100%, I let everyone know.
Right.
But even within the work, because I work in the drug and alcohol field, not necessarily recovery, but in all sorts of other ways. And there are some organisations there where if you work for them, you're not allowed to say that you are an alcoholic or an addict. You're not allowed, because it's meant to be professional. I mean, it doesn't make sense. A lot of that's going now, that people can just be honest about, lived experience is becoming more popular now. But I've always been open about, this is what I am. I can't be in a workplace like that place I was in. I cannot be in a workplace where they would be, mocking people who are ill, so I just don't do that. But, if it's your job and you love your job, you're going to say, right, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody. It's fair enough, isn't it?
Fair enough. What a great conversation, guys. I think when I think about listening to us talk so openly about these kind of issues that are surrounding interactions over holidays, interactions with families, and families with us, if family members were listening, they might have gotten some help in how to communicate with us, right? And this was a great conversation, and one that we have often within our recovery communities for those listening. And it's something we all have to deal with, is the family afterward, right? And to the employer and everything that we do as we move forward, taking back our lives. It was a great show today. Went right up to 2 minutes before the end. Thanks everybody for coming. The next thing is going to be the virtual retreat coming up. We do have a mocktail hour in January that's going to be in Manhattan. Nothing much else between now and then. If you're feeling it, if you feel like you need to get a break and you don't want to go through another holiday with your drinking or drugging or brokenness, guys, reach out to us. Somebody from the Came to Believe community will reach out to you. We'll help you before the next retreat, I promise. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. in the UK. Everybody have a great rest of their week. Bye.
Bye.